All right, the discourse around AI art generation, it's reached this fever pitch online that's culminated in these online protests, like the ones happening over on ArtStation, and also this class action lawsuit where artists are suing these major AI companies. And I've looked at all sides of this argument. I've come to the conclusion that really the problem isn't AI, the problem is IA. And what do I mean by that? AI stands for artificial intelligence, and that's something that's relatively new, but it stems from something deeper and something that's really been a major problem for artists for a couple centuries now, and that's industrialized art. Now, in this video, I want to unpack what that actually means and what you can do to combat it, and what you can do as an artist to actually industrial art proof your career. But before we get into that, I personally am a working professional artist, and I got a book to sell. My new book, Spaceships, or Kepler's Intergalactic Guide to Spaceships. This is a completely self-published, Kickstarter-funded book project. It's kind of like if you took one of those incredible cross-sections books, the visual dictionary books, some art book, sketchbook stuff, and a comic, put them in the blender, hit pulverize on that, and outpoured this book right here. If you're a person who likes spaceships, or you like cool sci-fi worlds, and you want to dig in deep to the sci-fi world that I'm creating, then check out Spaceships. It's available in my online shop, link below. All right, what do I mean by industrialized art? Let's first talk about what industry is and what industry wants. Industry wants to spend the least amount of money possible on the products that it creates. So how does it do that? It wants a product that's easily replicated, that's easily produced in the most efficient and consistent way possible. It wants this because inconsistency and uniqueness, things that are really nice characteristics or features of art, those inconsistencies and those uniquenesses, they cost industry money. In order for them to make the most profit possible, industry wants to pay the smallest amount of money possible. And one of the biggest expenses for industry is paying people. For centuries, industry has been trying to figure out how to eliminate people so that they can reap the biggest amount of profit possible. So industrialized art started long before machine learning technology showed up on the scene. You had stuff like stock illustration websites or stock photography websites. You have websites like Fiverr. You even have social media platforms, and they all thrive because they've leveraged consistent and affordable art creation. Take Pinterest, for example. It scrapes the internet using you to do the uploading work for free. It doesn't ask where the images came from. It doesn't monitor who should get credit for what. That responsibility is all sort of left to the pinner. Pinterest just files the images that you pin in categories so that when you want ideas for something, it offers up a plate of inspiration that's algorithmically attuned to your needs, and then advertisers pay good money for this attention. Okay, so using images that it doesn't own, using labor that it hasn't paid for, Pinterest is booming to a tune of $2.5 billion in revenue a year. Now, stock photography and stock art websites, they do pay their artists. Fiverr pays their artists, but these are platforms where it's a race to the bottom, seeing who can offer the most amount of work for the least amount of money possible, just to kind of edge out the competition. And maybe the worst actors in the industrial art scene are the social media platforms. Think places like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. What they do is they harvest attention and they sell it to advertisers. How do they mine all of this attention? They offer to siphon off some of that attention that they're getting from people scrolling through and give it to artists in exchange for their art. So every time an artist posts their art on one of these platforms, they're essentially working for exposure. Artists do need exposure, but you can't pay the rent with exposure bucks. Okay, so that's what industrialized art has been up to this point, but now we have AI art generators, which completely remove the artist middleman altogether, and I would say it's industrialized art in its purest form. Now, I'm actually okay with AI art generation on a theoretical level. but I've got big problems with the way AI art generators have been created and how they're being used right now. So here's what I'm cool with. Technology that helps people create more efficiently, technology that is created ethically and honestly, and I'm in favor of US companies investing in AI technology to secure a better future for humanity. And here's where I have problems. Number one, AI art generators use data sets that have billions of images acquired without the consent of creators. Number two, AI companies who use these data sets are making money off of these stolen images and have no system in place to compensate or credit the creators they've stolen from. And number three, it's really about the potential of how this technology can be misused, and it's actually quite frightening. If an AI company that has zero regulations that it has to worry about, on regulations on where they can source the images or who they pay for images, then imagine that they've somehow acquired your personal photos, stuff that you've uploaded to Google Drive or to Apple's cloud or something like that. Who knows where they're getting these images, but say they're able to acquire them. Those images are then available to be used for scams, for false endorsements, or even like blackmail. Someone could generate an image with your face on it that says, look, so-and-so supports this, or so-and-so has done this. That's just like one of the many ways that it can be misused. All right, so what can artists do about this? First, let's look at the big picture stuff. I want you to realize that there's really no stopping technological progress. Like, name one technology that's been invented and like adopted by the masses that has ceased to be in use anymore, or if not, has not evolved into something more efficient. You know, we had fax machines, but now we use email, right? So like, technology is here to stay, and AI art generation, or the use of AI, it's here to stay. It's not going away. However, historically, the people have had to step in to keep industrialization from destroying everything in its path. So here's 3 things that you can do to help rein in the industrialization of art. Action number 1, engage in or amplify the protests against companies or platforms who are working unethically. All right, action number 2, support efforts that regulate the AI industry through legal action or legislation. All right, and action number 3, it's up to you to educate people on the problems with AI companies. The more people are informed, the more likely the change can happen. Okay, so we've talked about the big picture stuff, but now there's some personal stuff that you can do, stuff that really only affects you yourself. Since we now live in an AI art world, the artist needs to adapt or die. Here's what you can do to thrive in this new techno dystopia that we're in. Action number 1, keep making art. Action number 2, master your craft. This is something I talk about all the time. You have to know how to make really cool, engaging imagery that get people to stop and look at what you're doing, all right? In order to do that, 2 things: you don't ignore technology, and you do lean in and use traditional tools. Don't ignore technology. Learn to leverage AI for its strengths, or you're going to be replaced by someone who knows how to do that. And number 2 of this, learn and use traditional tools because of their weaknesses, because people are able to see the human hand inside of the work. And lastly, action number 3, embrace human engagement and experience by building a community around your work. Now, that might be building a fan base for some people. Other people, it might be just finding an employer, an art director, a director who believes in what you're doing, or a publisher, someone who has a system in place for amplifying and sharing artists' work, and you becoming a member of their team. Okay, I want to close with this. In an industrialized art landscape, the art that's made by humans for humans is going to stand out even more. Like, look at it this way. There's no shortage of food in the developed world. Like, if you need calories, the food industry has made sure food is accessible to everyone. Like, if you need a burger quick and cheap, there's a McDonald's on the corner over there. Now, just because McDonald's industrialized hamburgers, that doesn't mean that I stopped going to my favorite Indian food restaurant. Like, recently I met with my friends at this restaurant, and it was packed with people. We didn't meet at a McDonald's where the food was cheaper, where it was faster, and where it was more consistent. The reason we didn't, it's because the Indian food restaurant that we went to offers a richer experience. And I want to point out this thing that Seth Godin said very succinctly in an episode of his podcast. What he said was, industry is about depersonalizing things in pursuit of efficiency. Hospitality is about personalizing things in pursuit of a richer experience. People aren't looking for calories, they're looking for humanity. Okay, so artists, if your goal is to serve 1 billion hamburgers, you're going to have to industrialize. But if your goal is to serve humanity, you've already got everything it takes. That's it for today. See you next time.